Hi, I'm Van the Funeral Man. Thanks for joining me today. Did you know that God uses the flower as a metaphor to speak to us about issues of life and death? Let me give you an example. In the Old Testament book of Psalms, chapter 103, we read, "The life of mortals is like grass. They flourish like a flower of the field." So, what are flowers saying to us? Well, flowers mirror for us, or you might say they speak of the glory of the flourishing of our lives. For example, when I officiate funerals, we often what's called eulogize the person. And what that means is we talk about the beauty of their life, the successes and the fulfillments and the meaning of their lives. We talk about their flourishing, and that's what a flower shows us. It blooms, it flourishes. And so a flower speaks to us in that way. But it also has something else to say to us. It also speaks to the brevity of human life. For example, the very next verse, Psalm chapter 103, verse 16, we read, "The wind blows over it, and it is gone." You see, this flower here that I'm holding is beautiful. It's flourishing, you might say. But it's also in the process of decay. It's fading. It was at one time attached to a life-giving vine, but it has been cut off. This flower still has nutrients in the stem, but it's gradually fading away. You'll notice it still has beauty, but it's fading. If we followed this flower, let's say over the next few days or weeks, what do you suppose we would see? I'm told that if you keep this flower in a vase and with proper care, it'll last about 5 to 7 days. But eventually, it's going to look like this. Ultimately, flowers are saying to us, "Look at me. You are going to die just like me." You see, when flowers are intact with a vine, they have a continuous life-giving flow of nutrients. But when it's detached, its flow of life-giving nutrients are cut off. And while nutrients are stored in the stem of this flower, eventually they dry up. So here's the reality that God is wanting us to see. Humans live their lives as cut flowers. You see, we die because we have been cut off from the source of life. How did this happen? Well, when you read the Bible, the early chapters of Genesis, you find God creating Adam and Eve. And while they were living under God's rule, they flourished. But you'll read in chapter 3, they rebelled against God. They chose self-rule over God's rule. And when they did that, that's when they were cut off from the very life source that they needed. And like a flower, they were cut off from the true source of life. And they ultimately died. And we've all suffered the consequences ever since. So is there any hope for cut flowers like us? And the answer is yes. Our only hope, though, is that we'll be reconnected to a life-giving source. You see, Jesus used a number of metaphors to help us to understand who He was. He said, for example, "I am the door," or "I am the bread of life," or "I am the living water," "I am the good shepherd." But here's an important image that He used. He said, "I am the true vine." So you might ask, how can Jesus help me? Well, notice what He said here. In John's Gospel, chapter 11, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die." And then He asked, "Do you believe this?" See, we connect to Jesus Christ, the life-giving vine, through faith, through trust. We trust Him. It's similar to how a flower is connected to the vine. We trust in Jesus, and as we do, we draw all the benefits that He did for us. He was our substitute. He lived for us and He died for us. Just like a flower is taking in the nutrients from the vine, we take in life-giving benefits from Jesus Christ. So yes, there is hope for cut flowers like you and me. Not in man-made religion, not in personal spirituality, not even in a particular church, but in a person, the person of Jesus Christ, the true vine. Now, I'd be interested in hearing from you to know what you think about this. And so I just asked you to consider maybe leaving a comment, subscribe, like, and I'd enjoy communicating with you. Now, for the time being, I'm Van the Funeral Man, living with hope in life and in death.